Last week we posted a video talking about chain upgrades and what to do if a chain snaps, and then this week someone in the Discord asked, can someone please tell me and possibly show me what it sounds like if a chain is about to snap? I can't tell if my cranks are creaking or the chain is about to snap, and that's a really scary feeling to have. So in this video I'll give you some warning signs that your chain might be about to snap, some things to look for, plus a few tips to make sure that your chain is well taken care of and you don't run into any broken chain issues. Let's get right into it. So the first warning sign that a chain might be snapping is the creaking sound that he's explaining here. If you're pedaling down and you hear something in your drivetrain creak, your chain might be snapping. So if you're hearing a creaky chain, then you need to inspect it and you need to take a look at it closely. If your chain is just a full link chain, you can look and you can see little stress cracks in the links. The links are the things that link together, and you can look at those and you can see kind of stress points. You can also pedal your chain backwards slowly, pedal your crank slowly backwards, and you can see if it's hanging up somewhere. So if your chain is hanging up on the sprocket at a certain point, you know, like say every 2 rotations back it gets a little bit of a hang up, inspect that spot where it's going over the sprocket, because that's probably where your crack is in your chain. Typically chains don't just like explode and come apart. They start with a small crack, and then as you pedal it spreads that chain out more and more till eventually the link snaps. And once one link snaps, the thing that holds the pins stretch out and pop in half too. And so it doesn't just start with the chain exploding. So the first warning sign is the creaky chain. If you hear the creaky chain, inspect it, look for stress cracks inside of the links, and if you don't find any stress cracks in the link, you might want to look at this other thing. So the second warning sign that your chain might be snapping is a grinding sound when you're pedaling forwards or while you're pedaling backwards with a fakie. The grinding sound is caused by what I talked about earlier, and that's by the links kind of catching on the sprocket or catching on the driver in the back. And so if it's not a creaking sound but it's more of a grinding sound, your chain could be wearing out and it could be time to replace that chain. Same thing, take a look at the links, look for those stresses, and then if you find them, replace your chain. I do also want to say, if you replace anything on the drivetrain, you might get a weird sound. Like let's say you just replace your back wheel and you keep the same old chain, you keep the same sprocket. The chain and the sprocket have kind of grooved together because they've been ground together so long as you're pedaling it. Like they combine together and they just have a good flow. New sprocket to that or a new wheel, then it's not set up for that chain, like it hasn't been broken in, I guess is a good way to put it. And so you're gonna hear some weird sounds as it gets used to that. When I switched out my sprocket on my bike, I had this crazy creaking sound and it took a while for it to get used to it. So some people recommend if you're changing parts around, like your chain, you should change your sprocket and your driver. I think that's silly because that's a lot of money. Just expect some weird sounds first off and then they'll go away, okay? But anyway, that's the second thing. Honestly, if you're hearing a funky sound from your chain and you're worried about your chain snapping, it's not very expensive to just replace it, because it's either 3 things, right? It's either your sprocket is cracked or tweaked and moved around, and so that's causing it to grind. Your chain is either about to break, or your driver on your back wheel, something's going on there. It's either those 3 things in the drivetrain. And so replacing a sprocket is pretty expensive. Replacing a back wheel is very expensive. Replacing a chain is the least expensive of the 3. And so if you don't know for sure, I would recommend just replacing that chain anyway and then riding it and seeing if that made a difference, as it's only going to cost you like $20-$30 for a decent chain versus $70 for a sprocket or $150 for a back wheel. So if your chain's making a weird sound and you're worried that it's going to break, take a really close look and look for stress cracks on the links. And then if you're still unsure, it's not a bad idea just to replace it, because snapping your chain, hitting your knee on the stem is the worst feeling ever. If you have a BMX question or you think your bike is going to blow up, join the BMX Nerds Discord. The link for that's in the description. You can post a question that you have. There's over 1,400 members in there right now talking about BMX, and we'd love to have you in there. We'll see you guys in the next video.